China just built an artificial sun 7 times hotter than the real one. And it's not some distant experiment. It's generating power right now. It's the hottest object in the entire solar system, burning at 126 million degrees Celsius, and it's contained inside a machine that creates the coldest temperature in the universe. You're about to see the 5 biggest renewable energy megaprojects China has ever built, each one more impossible than the last. By the end, you'll understand why that artificial sun changes everything. But before we get there, we need to start with what came before it. Out in the Gobi Desert, something massive is taking shape. 5. Gansu Wind Farm Corridor. You're looking at 7,000 wind turbines stretching across the Gobi Desert, each one taller than a 40-story building. This is the Gansu Wind Farm Corridor, and it's the largest wind power base on Earth. But here's the problem. The Gobi Desert doesn't just offer wind, it offers destruction. Sandstorms rip through at over 100 kilometers per hour, shredding turbine blades like paper. Temperatures swing from scorching days to freezing nights. Equipment that works anywhere else fails here within months. And you need these turbines to run non-stop, or the whole system collapses. So how do you keep 7,000 massive machines alive in one of the harshest places on the planet? Reinforced blades that can take the impact of sand moving like bullets. Heating systems that prevent freezing at -40 degrees. And monitoring stations that can detect a failing turbine before it destroys the others around it. The result? 20 gigawatts of power. That's more than 15 nuclear power plants combined, all from wind that used to blow across empty desert. But wind isn't the only thing China figured out how to harness. 4. Huainan Floating Solar Farm. You're staring at 166,000 solar panels floating on top of a lake, not built beside it, on it. The Huainan Floating Solar Farm sits where a coal mine collapsed and flooded, turning dead land into one of the world's largest floating power stations. But here's where it gets dangerous. Water and electricity don't mix. Corrosion eats through connections. Panels shift and crack when storms hit. The entire structure can sink if the flotation systems fail. And unlike ground-based solar farms where you can walk out and fix a problem, every repair here means boats, divers, and equipment that can work underwater. One design flaw and the whole thing goes dark. So they built it to move with the water, not fight it. Flexible anchoring systems that let the panels ride out waves. Sealed components that can survive complete submersion. And here's the genius part. The water cools the panels 40% more efficiently than air ever could. That means more power from every panel. 150 megawatts of electricity from a place that used to produce nothing but coal dust. But floating panels are nothing compared to what's holding back an entire river. 3. Baihetan Hydropower Station. You're standing at the base of a dam that's 289 meters tall. That's taller than most skyscrapers. The Baihetan Hydropower Station holds back the Jinsha River with 16 of the most powerful turbines ever built. Each one can generate a gigawatt of power on its own. But here's the nightmare. This dam sits in an active earthquake zone. The ground shifts, the rock cracks, and you're trying to anchor 16 million tons of concrete to a foundation that moves. One major quake, one structural failure, and the dam doesn't just break. It unleashes a wall of water that could level everything downstream for hundreds of kilometers. The turbines themselves are so powerful that the vibrations from them running could tear the dam apart from the inside if the engineering is even slightly off. So they built it with concrete that generates 70% less heat as it cures, preventing the cracks that destroyed earlier dams. They embedded sensors throughout the entire structure that measure stress in real time. And those 16 turbines? They're balanced so precisely that they spin at 111 revolutions per minute without shaking the dam at all. 16 gigawatts of power. Enough electricity to power 75 million people, all from water flowing downhill. But generating power is only half the problem. 2. Three Gorges ultra-high voltage network. You've got the world's largest hydroelectric dam, pumping out 22 gigawatts of power. But here's what nobody talks about. 30% of that electricity disappears before it reaches the cities that need it. It bleeds away through the transmission lines. All that renewable energy, all those turbines spinning, and a third of it just vanishes into the air as heat. This is the problem that nearly killed renewable energy in China. You can build all the dams and wind farms you want, but if you can't move the power across thousands of kilometers without losing it, what's the point? Traditional power lines can't handle the distance. The longer the line, the more power you lose. And China's renewable energy sits in remote areas, far from the cities. Every megawatt lost is a megawatt you have to replace with coal. So they built something that shouldn't exist. Ultra-high voltage transmission lines carrying 1.1 million volts. That's 10 times higher than standard power lines. These lines move electricity 3,000 kilometers with only 7% loss. 7%. Compare that to the 30% they were losing before. This network doesn't just connect the Three Gorges Dam. It connects every wind farm, every solar installation, every hydroelectric plant across the entire country into one massive grid. It turned isolated renewable projects into a system that actually works. But every project you've seen so far has one limit. They all depend on nature. 1. East Fusion Reactor. The artificial sun. Wind stops blowing. The sun goes down. Rivers run dry. Every renewable energy source you've seen depends on something you can't control. But what if you didn't need nature at all? What if you could build your own sun? That's exactly what China did. The East Fusion Reactor in Hefei reached 126 million degrees Celsius. That's 7 times hotter than the core of the actual sun, and it held that temperature for 17 minutes straight. You're not just watching a reactor anymore. You're watching a star contained inside a machine. But here's the problem that stumped scientists for 70 years. At 126 million degrees, everything melts. Steel vaporizes instantly. Concrete turns to gas. There's no material on Earth that can touch plasma that hot, and you need to hold it there, perfectly stable, or the entire reaction collapses. Every fusion experiment before this failed because the plasma either cooled down or exploded outward. Seconds of stability was considered a miracle. 17 minutes was impossible. So how do you contain a sun without letting it touch anything? You don't let it touch anything. The East Reactor uses magnetic fields 280,000 times stronger than Earth's magnetic field to suspend the plasma in mid-air. It floats there, burning hotter than any star you can see in the sky, held in place by invisible forces. The magnets themselves have to be cooled to minus 269 degrees Celsius, just centimeters away from the plasma. You've got the hottest and coldest temperatures in the solar system existing in the same machine, separated by less than a meter. And here's why this changes everything. Fusion runs on seawater. 1 liter of seawater produces the same energy as 300 liters of gasoline. The ocean contains enough fuel to power humanity for millions of years. No mining, no drilling, no waiting for the wind to blow. And unlike nuclear fission, there's no radiation, no meltdown risk, no waste that stays deadly for thousands of years. The reaction is so clean that if you shut it off, it just stops instantly. That 17-minute record, that's the proof it works. Every second that reactor ran, it rewrote what's possible. Those 7,000 wind turbines in the Gobi, they generate 20 gigawatts combined. A single fusion power plant could match that. The Three Gorges Dam, the largest hydroelectric project ever built, fusion makes it look small. Because fusion doesn't need a river, or a desert, or 166,000 solar panels floating on a lake. It just needs water and a machine that can hold a star. China didn't just build an artificial sun 7 times hotter than the real one. They proved you can power the world without limits. Everything you saw before this, every mega project, every impossible engineering feat, was building toward one goal: unlimited energy. And now, it's not science fiction anymore. It's running right now in Hefei. The artificial sun is here.